Alrighty, everyone. This is Terminus with another episode of Girls Last Tour, episode 9 this time. And I don't know where we are. We had that really cool, beautiful moon episode last time, and I'm really looking forward to what's gonna come next. We only have 4 episodes left, and I know I talk about it a lot, but it's like, if I really enjoy a show, it's really hard to let go because when you're done with a show and you're through with it, it's kind of like this emptiness that remains inside of you where it's like something is missing, something is lacking for a while. It's almost like an addiction where you like suddenly you don't have the substance anymore. And that's oftentimes really crazy when you think about these things, but it kind of is what it is. You can't change it. So I'm trying to make the best of it. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a lot more to say. We are one place higher, and we we had a giant hangover last time. I wonder if we're going right from that, or if we're skipping ahead a little bit and then we're going for a new kind of theme for this episode. But let's check that out. Okay, Girls Last Tour, episode 9 starts. Wait, I still need to switch to Japanese. Starts in 3, 2, 1. We're pretty much at a similar place where we left off. I love the angles where it's from like these rafters and whatnot. Of course, you always have a conversation like this. It's like she's saying something and she's like, "Shut up." Yeah, it definitely sounds like that. Like all of these facilities and like the electricity and all of that is still working. How is it still working? That's my question. No OP? I'm scared. It's interesting how we anthropomorphize everything, right? What is a living being? Ominous. Ominous hallway. Almost reminds me of like Star Wars hallways, right? Like with the like very symmetrical structure and the lights and everything being a little bit like a space station or something. Ooh. Okay, that's an interesting flashes there. She's thinking about life, and then there's like flashes of water and like the things that people leave behind. Ooh, this sounds like somebody's working or something. Right, there's some writing on those pillars. What's happening? Wait, is this robots? A robot platform? Is this why everybody is dead? Or gone? Do they though? Mm-hmm.
じゃあさ、もし機械が一人でこっちに向かって歩いてきて、こんにちはって挨拶したらどうする？そんな機械はないだろう。
Looks like an elevator, right? Oh no, it was stairs. Okay.
地球上にはもう人間以外の生き物は存在しないって言われているんだから。
No other living being than humans. Okay, so all other beings must have been eradicated. Wait, there's fish? What do you mean? Dude, there's fish? What were we yeah, that's a living being. Ooh, okay. Machines. And it does exactly what you was asking. She just wants to eat it. Oh, I love that angle. Non-employee.
ダメじゃん。おい。あ、警備機械ってここに来る途中で見たあれかな。でかいやつを？いえ、それはこの区画を整備している建設機械でしょ。
All automated. I wonder if he said him or.
魚は食べないからさ、もっと機械とかここのことを教えてくれないかな。いいですよ。
Find out more. We got a guide.
ねえ、話はいいからあれを食べたいんだが。黙ってろ。うわー、魚。
Sakana. Shut up, you. This is super interesting. We get to know more about the world. The one that contains fish. Mass production of food fish. Only one. Snap out of it. She keeps asking. Alright, I guess we're going bathing. Jumping start. Of course, she's like, just, I'm fine. Wait, she can't swim? She can swim.
だって言ってるだろ。で
Alright, what's happening? Let me know, robot. Oh, she's washing laundry, okay.
気持ちいい。ねえユウ、この前見た魚ってやっぱりここから流れてきたのかな。洗濯してた時の。
Could be actually.
美味しかったやつ。あ、ちょっとここで洗濯しないでよ。水が汚れるじゃんか。私が泳いでるんだから気をつけてよね。
Shut up, you.
いや、お前も手伝えよ。嫌なこった。
環境汚染ですね。かつて地球は一つの大きな生命でしたが、人類はその営みからの独立を選びました。彼らは水や空気、エネルギーの循環を代替し、人間が生存可能な環境を提供し続ける都市を築きました。都市の基盤拡張に備わったそれらのインフラを可能な限り維持していくのが私たちの仕事です。
人間なんてもういないのに。
私たちには関係ありません。
It's in their programming.
維持していくだけです。
ねえ、ちーちゃんも入ろうよ。結構あったかいよ。あいつなんであんな自由に泳げるんだ。
It's just her nature.
私も入ってみるか。
What's going on?
よし。なんで下着？裸でいいじゃん。いや、人がいるし。
Someone, okay, the robot.
機械でしょ。そうだけど。
She feels observed. That's normal.
足がつかない。
Yeah, she can't swim.
ちょっと待って。どうすればいいんだこれ。足をバタバタすると浮くよ。
And keep your breath in.
いけるいける。
大きく息を吸って力を抜けば浮きますよ。
Okay, she's dead. Rip Chi. We'll see you in the next life. Ooh, yeah, she had dreams like this. Oh, this is cool. Did she almost drown? That is crazy.
大丈夫？
かつて地球は一つの大きな生命でしたが。
だとしたら今はどうなんだろう。
That's a good question, actually. What is it now that almost all humans are gone?
おお、すごい。
通常は跳ねたりする種ではないのですが、ある種の突然変異ですね。
突然変異？
命令の誤伝達、バグのことです。
A bug in our DNA.
機械の言うことは難しいな。
It is.
やめろって。ねえ、私にもそれできたりする？
餌やりですか？いいですよ。
いいの？やったー。
今日はあと5粒です。
よし。にゃ。
Why do we feed animals? That's interesting.
捕食者は友達になれないだろう。私はお前を一緒に旅に連れて行ってやりたいよ。よだれ垂れてるし。
And that was 4.
寝るならそこの配管下がいいです。温水が通っています。
あったかい。 ってたんだけど、本当に生きてるみたいだよね。機械なのに。
私たちは人間とコミュニケーションできるように共感という能力が備わっているからでしょうか。
Communication is a big part of connection, isn't it?
あなたたちが喜ぶと私も嬉しいということです。
なるほど。
It's a very simple, interesting way to put it.
あったかいね。
Okay, something is happening. Is the facility gonna crash in on? Yeah, it's not that well maintained, is it?
なんでここに？
この施設の解体を始めたみたいですね。
どうして？
わかりません。資材の確保のために不要な施設を解体することがありますが、聞いてみます。
あれと話せるの
？Transmission. It's super cool how they display the robot language.
揉めてるのかな？どう？なんだって？
ここを解体すると言っています。停止を提案しましたが、聞き入れてもらえませんでした。
役立たず！おい、それじゃ魚が。
解体リストには周辺区画のほとんどが含まれていました。おそらく都市にとっても致命的なバグが発生しています。
A bug lethal to the city.
それも進化の源なの？
破壊がもたらす次の創造を進化と呼ぶならば。
That is interesting. We might want to look at those subtitles later on. Now it's flashing through her mind as well.
ねちーちゃん。あの魚を助けようよ。でもどうすれば？
私には不可能です。が、あなた方なら可能かもしれません。
How though? Are we gonna get a glass and get the fish, take the fish with us?
食べるんじゃなかったな。なんでだろう。あの魚を助けたい。
It's another life.
共感ってやつかもね。
Maybe it is.
これなら半分あれば大丈夫でしょう。この爆薬を彼の体幹部に設置すれば内部構造を破壊して停止できます。
Interesting that it isn't forbidden from that.
あの天井の通路なら背中に乗れるかな？
あそこへは端から登ることができますが。
大丈夫か？
Not really.
行ってくる。
あの魚を助けたところであなた方の利益になると思えませんが。
Of course not.
あいつの考えてることは私にもよくわからないけどね。ねえ、あのでかい機械を破壊するのってさ、やっぱり殺すって
Kind of? It's not life though.
生命、私たちは生きてるし、あの魚も生きてる。大きい機械
Can it? Or are you projecting that onto it? Kind of, right? An ecosystem. Sorry, that guy. Right, let's go. Boom. Would it have dismantled him as well? They will. Fundamental truth of this world. No matter how long it takes. That is an interesting way to put it. I didn't expect a theme like this. Probably not. There are surely. Kind of. As long as there's energy. Is it Kyokan? Ooh, okay. A special kind of ending, huh? A different kind of episode. I like that though. I don't mind it. Thanks, Kadokawa. I wish you wouldn't be giving me so much trouble with copyright, but you know. Aside from that, White Fox, the goats. Love Steins Gate, love ReZero. White Fox doing a great job since forever with whatever properties they're taking on. Yeah, it's gonna be over soon, but I think it might even have post credit. Sounds like a radio transmission or something. Okay, interesting episode, actually. Let's talk about it. Let me see. I do, obviously. Let's boom, get it on the screen. This is a very curious episode. We start in the darkness, right? Which is an interesting theme because we come into the light and talk about the meaning of life and find life, and then we depart out of it by ending a life, kind of, and end in darkness visually, as with the credit scene. I love some of these angles, right? Like the way we approach everything, these scenes from every side, right? We have like almost like a 2D space that we're driving along here. But when we move on, we actually have like showing the scale, right? That's a massive dam that's behind us here. And we're just making our way through here. We're having our usual like spiel shout out to shout out to Vincent for his him pointing out way back when I was reacting to Fear in this Games People Play, which is a book that is relatively interesting. And we see that displayed here as well, right? Like you starts with her chanting a weird or chanting a word back and forth, and what's happening is that at some point she's like, shut up, would you shut up, it's dark. She's like, shut up, leave me alone, you're doing this like half an hour now. But that's the way she's kind of like pinging. She fill the silence, right? Get a response. And we're talking about like, it almost feels like this entire facility is alive, and she didn't mean it that way, but then like you picks it up and she's like, what do you mean alive? And she's like a living thing, but I didn't mean like for real, I just meant kind of like it, right? It's moving, it's still active. And we're starting to think about life. Suddenly it's like, we got the things that people keep. We have water, which it's weird, but I also have that weird association between water and living things, right? When it rains and everything is like full of water and whatnot, and like the lush green of the plants is coming out, it feels very much alive. And you do feel more alive, or I do feel more alive when it rains oftentimes. So, although like bright sunlight has a similar effect oftentimes. It feels fresh, right? It feels like, yeah, I don't know. Raindrops is a very good metaphor for life, I feel, even though raindrops are obviously not alive. They are just the basis of life, of organic life as we know it. And we have the first encounter, I love that, where we're looking up and suddenly everything is so big, right? Because it's like threatening to us. And we're zooming out and we're seeing this giant robot in the half darkness just passing by, making all of these noises, and we're like, wait, there's robots? Right? I knew there was automation. I didn't know there was like robots in that sense, right? Like really automatons that talk to you and that fulfill certain functions and that can communicate with one another. And we're trying to kind of define the area like between alive and not alive, right? Is a machine like a PC alive? Is AI alive, right? That those are the questions that keep us busy. And it's certainly a very interesting question to ask. What do we define life as? Now, obviously, there's a couple of general definitions of life, and I think like the most common one is like a unit, well, not a unit necessarily, but it is a thing that has some kind of metabolism, right? That is and has the ability to reproduce. Those are like two very important things that define life, which is why, for example, viruses, right? Organic viruses are kind of in that gray area between what we would define as life and not, because viruses don't have any kind of metabolism, but they have DNA or RNA, or right, like and they do have the explicit purpose of reproduction, right? Maybe the only purpose that a virus kind of seemingly seems to have. So it's very interesting because we normally see life as something more than that, right? Like it needs to have a metabolism, it needs to be able to convert energy, right? Convert substances into other substances, have some kind of metabolic activity, and at the same time also have that. And then we can define life on an even higher level with self-awareness, right? So the question is an animal self-aware? And most of the time we say probably to a degree. And then we define that as life. But we could ask, is a one-celled organism, is it aware? And probably not is the answer to that, but at least not the way we are aware, or like a dog would be aware. And then you have to ask, well, do we define that as life? And then obviously we have that artificial, like almost artificial barrier between organic life and non-organic life, because technically non-organic things can't be alive by our general, like, common definition of life. But if you build a robot that thinks like a human, it walks like a human, it talks like a human, it can do the things a human can do, it has self-awareness, wouldn't it be alive then? Right? Wouldn't it be a living being? Wouldn't it? And then maybe we have to redefine the barriers of what we define as life. Because then we have to understand, okay, even a robot can end, as we see in this episode. So if a robot can end as well, our definition of life isn't something that is maybe something that ends, right? And then that would fit the robot as well, right? Something that has an end. Well, the universe has an end too. So is the universe a living being, an organism? Is the Earth an organism? Is the Earth a living being? There are philosophies out there, theories or theoretical frameworks in which we do see the entire planet as an organism, right? Kind of like a giant ecosystem, and all of us are just part of it, right? Interacting with one another. It's not a closed system though, it's open to the universe to a degree, and as a result of that, the sun can give us the energy we need so we can actually be alive. We can exist. So I guess life, in a way, as anything else really, including reality, is a matter of definition and finding consensus, right? So if we at some point in time in the future, what do I know, 50 years, 100 years, if we decide that the definition of life includes artificial intelligence or robots that possess artificial intelligence and self-awareness, then that definition, if it becomes commonly accepted by a majority of the people in the world, it will be what we define as something that is alive. It's an artificial category. It's a category that artificial categories are something that we humans create in order to properly or to have an easier time understanding the world around us, handling the world around us, dealing with the information we are given from our senses, right? Our visual senses, our auditory senses, the information that are transferred to us by other human beings, or by, indirectly by other human beings as well, right? Like in the form of books or movies or any kind of audio recordings. We meet the fish, one of the only living beings still alive, and we kind of like, I love how we foreshadow like the robot coming in with like first of all, we got the tilted angle, right? We got like the threatening, supposedly machine that is coming towards us, and we don't know how scary it looks yet. We only see a leg and whatnot, although the audience can kind of guess it from the sounds. It's a smaller machine, and we're like, stop right there, what are you? And we see these like almost cliff like runes that we see here, and we got like the the thing, like the structures turning, like it's gears turning into like, or discs moving with one another. And then we got these like little connections that are almost like circuits that are connecting these different structures. And then we have these dots going through, which are almost like Morse code dots that are like ones and zeros of varying size or whatever, right? Like bits and bytes, whatever you want to call that. It's a really cool representation of just like robot thinking or programming or language or communication or whatever you want to call it. And that's a really interesting robot design. It would be very inconvenient, I'd say, right? Like for that robot to actually move and whatnot on these like very tiny stilted legs. But I guess like the purpose of this is, first of all, we show the architecture of this world, right? Or of this like age basically in the world, which is kind of like almost like feudalism / modernism, right? Like everything is kind of like just like, it's just a box of metal, right? And like it's like a pack that you can take with you, and then you put it down and suddenly like the legs are coming out of it and whatnot, right? It's just like a box, and maybe it's very, very hard to destroy as a result of that, or there was some kind of like design idea behind it, or also maybe kind of just also a style idea basically. And then we have almost like a flashlight head, and we have these stilting legs, which I almost feel like they are supposed to just give you an almost inhuman look, right? Something that is kind of like otherworldly or strange to a person that's looking upon it. So you get a similar feeling as maybe Chi and you would be getting looking at a robot for the first time. And I think like maybe the intention was the audience, right? We in our modern age are very used to displays of robots and whatnot, so they almost look normal to us at this point. First of all, because robots exist in our world at this point in time and day, right? That can move pretty well and whatnot, that look like humans or like dogs or whatever, right? When you've seen these like Boston Dynamic robots in showcases and whatnot. But also we're used to that, right? So our reaction, our emotional reaction to that is, oh, it's a robot. But maybe they wanted to kind of almost invoke kind of like that foreign feeling that Chi and you are feeling here, and they tried to do that through design. That's kind of my hypothesis on that. Either way, Yu is focused on the fish, drooling like the glutton she is. But these are robots that are supposed to maintain the aquarium. We have like the swimming scene, which is very interesting, mainly because while Yu is joking around and all of that, she is asking the robot important questions. She's like, oh, well, what's happening here, right? Like, can you explain this to me? You goofing around, which is annoying, but also just the way she is. And she's doing laundry, and she's like, Robot's kind of explaining a little bit. He's like, what does he say here with the like, the Earth was once and like a living being, basically. Earth was once a large living being, but humans chose to separate themselves from its processes, which is a very interesting way to put it. Probably the way the robot's creator put it. And that's an interesting way to look at it, mainly because I kind of like, I've thought things like this before, mainly because, and a lot of us probably have, because humans kind of decided at some point to separate themselves from the natural habitat that they were in, right? And create their own, right? They created their own shelters, they created their distance and differentiated themselves from the rest of nature, basically. Maybe shut nature out even, right? We had a phase where everything nature, like at this point in time, people have different philosophies, but there was phases where everything nature has been kind of shut out completely and was considered dirty, right? And considered maybe even dangerous, right? And so we have this part, like this step in our evolution where we started to separate ourselves completely from the circumstances of our environment and create an environment that we at least perceive to be ideal for us, which on the one hand gave us the ability to thrive as a species, right? Like uncontrolled population growth, enormous like increase in lifespan. We have an enormous increase in productivity and all of these things. But by separating ourselves from nature, and many people are saying that, we are kind of we're causing a couple of changes in how human beings, the existence of human beings, and also the evolution of human beings works. Which on the one hand, we have like a society in which a lot of people, regardless of their abilities, regardless of their health status, obviously people who are less healthy are still prone to die first, but evolution can take less place in a modernized world where we live in a very artificial environment, and especially if we paint the picture of a future in which everything is even more automated than it is right here today. The second is obviously that we kind of lose our connection to nature, which isn't even anything spiritual or whatever, but more on in the sense of when we used to grow up in nature or have more contact with nature growing up, there is an increased sensitivity for the things that happen in nature, for the other living beings that exist in nature, to actually empathize with them, as we we bring up the word empathy later on in the episode. And it's a lot harder for a modern human being to actually learn these lessons because they are not as exposed to nature as people 100, 200, 300 years ago. And as a result of that, we're actually more used to our urban environments than we are to rural or even completely isolated nature environments. And when nature and urban environments clash, oftentimes people don't have that sensitivity for nature, that empathy for animals and plants, that like connection to nature itself. And you see that, for example, also in cases where animals will flee days ahead of a tsunami or something similar, and humans don't even realize anything is wrong is going on until it's much, much later, or until our warning systems that our computers that we build with like sensors and measuring devices tell us, hey, there's danger coming, right? But we need the computers to tell us. It's very interesting because we gotten so habituated to using tools, right? It started with fire, it started with spears, it started with rocks and all of that stuff. It continued with the wheel and big inventions, right? And later on, the Industrial Revolution, the steam machine and whatnot. And we've gotten so used to using all of these tools that maybe we have forgotten, or we like the children today never learn to actually develop the senses that they would need to be able to do these things, to know these things, to feel these things before a machine tells them to, because they don't have to, they don't need to. And as it happens with evolution, everything that is not needed, it isn't a part of natural selection. So you are not reproducing less, right, or dying earlier because you don't have that sense. So in the end, yes, there's still gonna be a bunch of humans that have more connection to nature inherently, right? But when they don't learn it growing up, it's gonna be something that's never really developed. And we know that, like, from developmental psychology, we do know that there's a lot of phases in early childhood and in our teenage years where there's windows, certain like 1, 2, 3 year windows where certain developments happen, right? Where our brain develops in certain ways, develops abilities that we might need. One very prominent example of these things not developing is our linguistic development, where depending on the country we live in and the language we speak, we are developing the ability, or we, as children, when we are born, we have the ability to technically differentiate most, if not all, phonetic sounds that a human being can make. And over time, depending on the region we are in, because the region speaks certain languages or one certain language, we are starting to forget or not develop our ability to properly differentiate certain sounds that are not common in our language. So Japanese people, for example, have that with the R and the L sound, and other languages obviously have their own peculiarities, and we just don't hear these differences anymore as adults. But children can hear them, if like young children. This is an example of an ability that exists within us, that still exists at birth, that we don't use over the course of our childhood and teenage years, and we kind of like don't develop them. Now, obviously, some things can actually be learned later on in life, right? Although it might be a lot harder to learn them. Playing an instrument is an example. If you start to learn an instrument very early, it's going to be also hard, but it's going to be a lot harder when you start learning or try to learn an instrument at 30 or 40, comparatively to a teenager or a young kid. Because our brain specializes. That is one of the most like positive inherent abilities of human beings, that our brain can specialize so much. But it's also kind of the reason why many things that we don't need, that we don't use, we lose those abilities. Be that on a genetic level, because these abilities just die out because we don't need them anymore, or be that even just on a developmental level, that when you grow up and you never use them, it's never developing. Human built cities to provide the environment for their existence, yeah, as an alternative to the cycles of water, air, and energy. Interesting way to put it, but also like different than I would have put it, but kind of true, right? Shut ourselves out from nature. Our job is to maintain the infrastructure and foundation of the city to the best of our ability, even though the humans are gone, because this is our programming, right? That's how robots work. It's very funny that she doesn't want to get completely undressed because she feels watched by the robot, which is like, yeah, so that means she kind of anthropomorphizes the robot, right? She sees the robot as a human being, or as a living being at the very least. And she can't swim. It's hilarious at first, and it's interesting, and then it's like, okay, is she gonna drown? But this scene where she's like looking up, kind of, a couple of seconds before that, it kind of reminds me of what I used to do back when I was a kid or teenager, when I was at the local swimming pool or at the local sea. It's, well, mostly at the swimming pool, because the sea, oftentimes it's like the water is not clear enough to actually look past the surface. But when you're like in a pool, right, and an outdoor pool or whatever, kind of let yourself sink the 1 or 2 meters down the and look up at the surface, how the reflections are looking, and suddenly the sounds are all kind of muffled, but you can still hear things, right? And it's almost like it's making you so calm. There's some tranquility in that, right? She, meanwhile, is not breathing and losing her consciousness, but it is what it is. She has wild dreams as a result of that. And the words kind of stuck with her, I guess. Mutation and evolution is kind of being explained. It's funny that the robot says kind of a bug, right? Like, it's kind of like a defect or something that wasn't supposed to be there, and suddenly it's different. But it's kind of not a bug because it's supposed to be that way, right? It's like machine learning, where you're like, okay, you can change things about yourself. Some things might not be good, and then you'll, like, through the process, you'll realize it, and it's not gonna happen again, right? Natural selection. The person who has that unfortunate ability or disability is not gonna survive long enough. They're only gonna have 1 or 2 kids, maybe none at all. and then the person who actually has more favorable abilities is gonna have more kids, and then that's how the ability kind of evolves into like the mainstream, the main breadth of human skill and ability. But suddenly she's kind of making friends with the fish, and she's like, hey, I like this one. Right. I was thinking you see me really alive. Even though, right, we need to communicate with humans because humans kind of were there before, right? And they needed to communicate with them and tell them what's going on and whatnot. And obviously a human could look at the machine code and figure it out, but it's a lot easier if you put it into normal ass language. This is why all of the like programs of talking in normal ass language to you, and maybe some things are simplified and not actually how they are, but it's designed oftentimes in a way to make it as intuitive as possible for every human being to use them, because it's very important to have that machine-human interaction, the UI, the user interface experience to be as smooth as possible. So you don't have to look everything up, so you are not confused when you're actually getting feedback and have to give informed instructions to the robots, which at this point obviously they're only running on the last instructions they had and the general purpose they are here for. But and we're talking about empathy, right? Mimic empathy, because humans like that. Humans like to anthropomorphize. We like to give objects or machines or animals human characteristics because it makes it easier for us to care for them and to interact with them and all of that. I wonder why that is. Maybe humans are social beings and are programmed internally to function well within social circles of other living or especially human beings. And this is why we try to make everything into a human-like thing. If you want to get religious, you could say, right, we create things in our image. Sure. Big machines coming in, breaking everything down. It's there for disassembly, right? That's been the order. The question is, where's the order coming from? Is it like just an automated thing and suddenly a sensor is like, oh, wait, we gotta save energy or we gotta conserve energy, or this facility is not productive anymore. Give order. Dismantle facility, please. Or is it more of a, like there's still like an international thing where some humans are alive, or some programs or some cities are kind of still functioning, and that is like they kind of check them on a list and they're like, okay, disassembly list, right? At some point in time when we have the resources, you're gonna disassemble. Cool shot at like the thing, like it kind of gives you the idea how huge that thing is, especially when we zoom out. Most of the sectors in the city were on the disassembly list. A bug lethal to the city must have occurred. A bug lethal to the city. A bug lethal to the city. If you would call breaking down something to build something new evolution. Right, so we want to break it down and build something new. A bug lethal to the city. So we're like, okay, disassemble a city, build it again. Question is there still somebody alive who can even like do that? Okay, let me just we're gonna look at the other subtitles. Right, let me see if there's something different. He would demolish a space. I purposed a suspension, but he refused to consider it. Okay, maybe we're gonna go for Ascensi at this point in time. Right. Yeah, we got that. I'm afraid that a bug fatal to the city must have occurred. Bug is this source of. If you would give the name evolution to destruction of old to create the new, is that the source of evolution here too? Right? Is the city evolving or is it devolving? Is it just breaking down and dying, or is it remaking itself? I don't know what the bug lethal to the city means. Is it maybe like the city is not worth keeping up anymore, so we need to kind of break it down to get it back up? Maybe that's what the robot means. Either way, love these flashes that we have again of like just the general, like the fans, the water flowing, right? Like everything is like in motion. I guess that could be a metaphor for metabolism as well, right? Things are in motion, they are moving, right? It's not just that the person or the thing, right, the living being is moving. It's that inside the living being, things are moving, right? Again, but that way, like by that definition, you can call the living being universe, like, or no, other way around. Sorry, you can call the universe a living being. Right, and we're gonna do something about that. Nice zoom out. We go there. We save the fish. We decide to kill the robot, I guess, right? It's like, sorry, big guy, you're a living thing as well. We kind of see you as a living thing, but you are threatening the other organic living being that I feel more empathetic towards. Yeah. And the robot can't do much, just maintain, but maybe they stay alive. Really. Oh, that was a cool shot as well, right? We're driving out, it's so symmetrical how the lights are constructed, and even just like the entire structure, almost all of it. Just the doorway has a little bit, like a couple of pipes that are different. And the last thing we see is like a robot transfer. I wonder if that was like a report of like, okay, this happened, this robot broke because these two girls set it off, right? I hope not, but I don't know. And then we got like him mending things over here. Yeah. Wonder what that last scene really meant. Not quite sure, but we'll figure it out. Very unique episode. Once again, we are going into themes that are so deep that I didn't even think that would be a thing, but somehow we still bridge the gap between super goofy goobers going through their exploration tour and finding things, and talking about food and like swimming in lakes and doing stupid stuff, and then we have these moments of, hey, what is life really about? What is life even? What is a fish? What did humans do back then? Hello? Right? And then we're asking the big questions. Are we all gonna end? Right? We kind of like, that wasn't a question. We actually said it, right? It's like all life is gonna end at some point. Everything's gonna break down. It's not even life. It's like everything is breaking down. Even rock is breaking down. For like after centuries of water flowing over it or wind just brushing past it. There is erosion. Nothing's gonna stay the same. But I mean, it's never really gone, is it? Right? Energy doesn't get lost in the universe. It's just dispersing more. That's what entropy is. Right? It's just like spreading equally to all spaces over a very, very long period of time. And at some point in time, all of the energy of the universe is going to be spread perfectly equally. And then nothing's going to exist. I don't know. That's just how it is. Great mysteries of the universe. What does it all mean? But that's cool stuff to think about. Philosophy is such an amazing thing. You don't need answers for that. You can just like, but by asking these questions, you're also asking secondary questions, right? What does life mean for me, right? What do I want to achieve in my life? How do I understand myself and the universe? And those are really, really important questions, I think, that human beings should ask themselves. No matter where they are, no matter when they are. It's always something very cool to ask yourself. Even if sometimes asking these questions might appear like a waste of time. But I feel like they help you develop as a human being, as an intellectual being, as a thinking being that has a self-awareness, and it helps you understand the world better. It helps you understand yourself better, most of all. Well, that was Girls Last Tour, episode 9. I hope I see you soon. If you like this video, leave me a like, subscribe to the channel, even if it seems useless sometimes. And I have a Patreon that is not useless. If you want to support me, it helps motivate me to actually continue doing this, and it helps paying some of my bills and expenses for the channel as well. And maybe one day I don't have to do side jobs or anything. I can just do this plus my therapy stuff at this point, right? But it would be cool to know that there's something that is worthwhile continuing. I mean, I'm gonna do it anyway to a degree, but obviously, as with so many things, if I do it because I like to do it, plus I get supported doing it, it's obviously another incentive to just keep going and persevere even in the phases where I might not always completely enjoy it, or where I might have very enough on my plate that I could just push it off and not do it. Anyway, I'll see you. Thanks to all of my patrons. Go check out the credits if you want to see who's supporting me right now. And I'll see you next time.